Breaking news, 326,214,123 Americans do not have coronavirus. The U.S. has seen no significant increase in overall deaths in 2020. Yet Americans continue to cede all their rights to the state and allow the economy to be destroyed. Most Americans have either run out of money or will soon. All this comes amid that sobering new toll on the economy on the American families. Unemployment now soaring to 14.7%. Across this country, with families in food lines who never thought they would need this help. They come by the thousands in every corner of the country, Americans out of work and now in need. In just the last month, 20.5 million Americans losing their jobs. 40% of the jobs will not come back. Unemployment surging to a rate not seen since the Great Depression. Shadowstats shows, with original unemployment calculating standards, 35% plus unemployed. Behind those staggering numbers, millions of Americans on the brink of financial ruin. With frustration mounting for those who still can't get unemployment benefits. In Florida, only 40% of people filing for unemployment benefits have seen them. Across the country, 20 million people haven't gotten those checks. The hardest hit industry is leisure and hospitality. Nevada, once one of the fastest growing economies, Las Vegas, now dubbed ground zero for job loss. Its iconic strip shuttered, and casinos turned into food banks feeding thousands. All it took was 5 or 6 weeks to expose the long-rooted problems America has. The supply chains and economy were teetering on a knife's edge. Cat's out the bag now, despite the government trying to save face. Very quickly moving to Soviet-style grocery stores. Translation equals nothing on the shelves. So after everyone survives the virus, we'll all die by starvation. The cure is starting to become worse than the disease. And before you know it, people will fight for food. The global food supply chains is breaking down. This is what occurs when people get paid not to work. Why take the risk and produce to get paid when you can get paid close to the same to do nothing and take no risk? Happens every time. You should see what happens when people don't get paid to not work, and there is a 35 million job shortfall. Give it until about Halloween. I hope you don't live in any big city and that you have a garden. Food grows on trees. Growing a garden is one of the best things we can do at the moment. Plant something, anything, anywhere you can. In a pot, in a plot, in a box, in a square. Just plant something. Put down the phone, mouse, or hot pocket, and pick up a hoe. You can either count on Big Brother or count on yourself. At a certain point, Americans will realize they're under attack. And not from the Chinese. It is not the coronavirus that will cause food shortages. It is the lockdown that will cause food shortages. We have food shortages, and the Fed is pumping trillions of dollars every day into their phony market as why prices are going up. Just remember that. They are trying to demolish the purposely failed financial scam and redistribute as much wealth as possible to their rich friends more like. Those dollars won't be worth anything if there are no potatoes to buy with them. This wouldn't be the first time in history the government starved people to death. The world is entering a worldwide depression. We also have a man-made famine headed our way. It's not just America. It's the entire world. The bankers promise Americans poverty, slavery, impunity for the rich and totalitarianism for most. Ya think Americans will finally learn just how many farms have been either corporatized or bought by Chinese. Same thing with many private colleges peppered throughout Middle America. One thing is perfectly clear. The federal and state governments are complicit in treasonous behavior to destroy the American people, their livelihood, and their liberties. The governments do not stand with us and have shown their true colors over the past few weeks. The Hunger Games coming to life. Don't be the guy in Mad Max waiting for Mel Gibson to pass you the empty can of dog food. Grow a garden. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It will be interesting to me to see what happens as things get worse and worse. The banks will start going hog wild with foreclosures fairly soon, and cars will be taken by the repo man, leaving people on the street. We are going back to kings and serfs like in the old days, and I wonder if that will bring liberals and conservatives closer as they see they have nobody in the government that is really on their side. If you pick out two families, one lib and the other cons, their needs and goals are a lot more alike than different. People in Congress and the super rich are almost alien to us compared to your neighbor. I hope the coming catastrophe will at least open people's eyes to that reality. The same people that created the Great Depression are working on creating another one. They lulled everyone to sleep with $600 a week stipend while they looted the Treasury bear. Inflation will become a threat. Everything is fixing to get a lot more expensive, and it has little to do with the Kung flu, which is only providing cover for the real culprit. Inflation due to staggering debt creation. The stuff everyone has to have will have a greater probability of price inflation. Stuff that is non-essential or luxury has a greater probability of price deflation. There will be a few winners, but that's the thing about a depression reset, the very large majority of people suffer. There will be multiple ways to get through. Choose the path that seems most natural. For me, it's land that I make more productive every day. Fruit trees, nuts, garden, large stores of fats, carbs, oils, proteins. Means to obtain, filter water, means to cook, means to obtain power, firearms for hunting, multiple homes on the property, multiple buildings, a lot of tools, a lot of raw materials. Yours will be different, no less valid, perhaps better in retrospect. The Fed is stealing your future, printing $2.5 trillion to bail out rich people. Finance turned into black magic. Money printer Go Burr has pushed the Nasdaq to positive for the year. This is insane. This money should have been paid directly to ordinary people in survival payments for lockdown, small business and individuals over the next 6 months. If you are going to print the money in an emergency, then put it where it matters. Into the public health and economic survival response to coronavirus. This is Trump's biggest failure, allowing this to happen. It completely undermined the lockdown and is the reason people are not cooperating. The richest 1% will eventually own everything, all the farmland, all the stocks, everything, because the Fed printed money and gave it to their rich friends. I've been feeling like we are in the collapse of our civilization, and this economic info just reinforces that feeling. When Rome was gasping its last, the middle class got wiped out. Taxes made owning land so expensive, normal people couldn't afford it. The poor were already slaves to the state, existing on bread and circuses. The rich and well-connected could bribe their way out of much of the taxes and buy up land from working people at bargain rates. Consolidating wealth and resources into the hands of a small number of families. The ordinary people eventually evolved into serfs. And the landlords, once the state could no longer provide military protection, evolved into feudal lords. History sure seems to be laying down some serious rhymes. I've felt for years the US is an empire in decline. Now, I feel like it's an empire in a rapid decline, we just don't fully see it yet. Americans have operated on the delusion that the post-World War II paradigm will last forever, and that we will be the top of the food chain forever. Reality is looming. Power inevitably shifts. Happened with the Romans. Happened with the Mongols. Happened with the Ottomans. Happened with the British. Why we as Americans thought we're any more special than the empires that came before us is silly. During steep economic downturns, the rich get so much richer. The Great Depression was extremely beneficial for those at the very top of the pyramid. I think we're going to see this phenomenon again soon. As is usual, when an economic crisis takes place, the 1% are taken care of first. And most times surreptitiously with the collusion of the rancid mainstream media. I believe that the US is now experiencing the greatest theft in its history, and the near future will reveal. The theft has occurred slowly and constantly over the past 50 years or so, and the stores of wealth are now empty, requiring the thieves to reset the system in some way. They would like to continue stealing, but the working people have been made too poor to continue having any drive to be productive. In addition, the working class is getting restless and looking for someone to blame for their woes. Those who steal depend on their prey being well enough off that they don't fight the theft or protect themselves against it in any meaningful way. The sheep have been sheared too aggressively and are now failing to produce any wool for their owners. Fed created $5 trillion in new debt for Americans and gave proceeds to banker friends. Americans. The whole thing is a farce, a complete con job. The virus is innocent. Blame the real culprits. Clue, they are human, and they are afraid, and they are in a panic, and they are making Orwellian laws without genuine need, and they are enforcing house arrest of the nation under threat of even greater punishment, and as the nonsense numbers are spewed out by the mainstream media monster they react by extending the house arrest to ensure that the lost jobs will stay lost and the population will be decimated. The stock market is just a chart of how happy rich people are. It's not that the value of the stocks has gone up. The value of the money has gone down. The stock market is based on imaginary wealth, where the entire value of a corporation is based on the price of the last traded stock. It's really a long-term chart of how much currency has been created from thin air. 7% increase per year over the long term, which is roughly the same increase you see in the price of gold. I do feel for everyone who's at the bad end of the financial scam, and that includes me generally. However, this system is bound to collapse because it's been unstable for so long, needing as it did 1.75 planet Earth's resources to continue, is obviously impossible to keep up. The deluded that think of themselves as elites, and that they can hoard the wealth of our world to themselves are doomed along with it. I'm glad it's collapsing for that reason. I can see an end in sight. People have been killing off the natural world for too long, and I know that this will continue so long as the lunatics are running the asylum, but it will inevitably end. Every end is followed by a new beginning, and that's the hope of a new kinder, fairer, and more sustainable way of living, thinking, which will be a happier, healthier one. We can start now. This was the